Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. My name is Jason Brink, but a lot of you know me as Bitbender. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for. There we go. Had to fix that. Had my own voice coming back at me for a second there. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're here with Hugo Philion from Flare, and we're going to be doing an AMA. You can join in if you join our Discord at galagames.chat. We're going to be talking about all things Flare, all things Gala, a little bit about Mirandis, just a little bit of whatever anyone is interested in hearing about. This is going to run for probably about 45 minutes to an hour, maybe. And we're here to just talk to the community. But first, how are you doing today, Hugo?
Great, thanks. It's a lovely sunny day. Um, Team is running very, very well, very, very fast, and it's a real pleasure to be here with the Gala community and I think some of the Flare community as
Oh,
well.
there's definitely some of the Flare community in there. I'm looking at our general channel in Discord right now. So, hey, you're getting a warm welcome from Vent 1020. He's a very active community member. He says hello and welcome. So
Thank you very
we're
much.
we're very happy to have you here. I think that there's a lot of alignment between what Gala Games is working on doing and what Flare is working on doing, and that's something that the very first time that I talked to you, you had talked to Eric for I think a couple weeks before you and I had really gotten a chance to speak, but I've always felt that there was such a tremendously wonderful alignment between Flare and Gala because both of us are working at solving some similar problems in different areas. Um, for you know what, actually, before we go into that, can we turn Hugo up a little? They want more of you. Give me just a second. Yes, we can. We can turn Hugo up a little. Let's see if that works. Okay. So Hugo has been turned up a little now. Everyone's
Testing.
very happy to see you here. This is fantastic.
Good.
Now, for those of us that don't know, or not for us, obviously, you and I are probably pretty clued into this, but for members of the Gala Games community who don't know what Flare is all about, can you just give a super brief intro to Flare?
Absolutely. So Flare is a new smart contract platform, so a new blockchain that runs smart contracts, and it essentially runs a version of the Ethereum virtual machine, so the same set of essentially instructions that the Ethereum network runs, and that allows you to have NFTs specifically that of a certain standard, which is what Gala Games uses, um, and Flare's highly scalable uh, and pretty inexpensive, uh, and essentially just a lot faster. Uh, there's a there's some very specific things about Flare, which is that we have a very specific consensus protocol that doesn't use proof of stake, it doesn't use proof of work, so it doesn't secure the protocol with capital, which is key to us actually, because we don't believe that capital is a scalable medium to scale a blockchain over the long term. And so that's a very important aspect of what Flare is doing, but it's probably less relevant to Gala today. But in the future, I think it really will be,
Hmm.
especially if you look at the potential vastness of gaming
Oh
ecosystems.
yes.
Yes, you don't want to have billions of dollars of capital tied up, as well as billions of dollars, of product on the chain. It just becomes deeply inefficient, and I think probably not likely to really be well adopted. Um, so we have a totally different consensus algorithm that's based more on the sort of Stellar type consensus algorithm, but it's a kind of a move forward of that. So it allows for smart contracts, which Stellar and other FPA style consensus algorithms haven't. So Flare is essentially the first scalable, Turing complete, federated Byzantine agreement algorithm. So that's what Flare is. And then the second element really is that Flare's built has a set of protocols built on top of it called the Flare. One is called the Flare Time Series Oracle, and the other is called the F Asset Protocol. And in conjunction, those two things really are built to enable people to get their token, let's say XRP, Litecoin, Doge, Stellar, and many others can be added by governance vote, get their tokens onto Flare in a way that doesn't involve a third party, some trusted custodial intermediary. It's essentially a trustless way to do it. And so that allows Flare to have lots and lots of different communities that can use Flare for things that they're, with the value that they already hold, let's say it's Dogecoin or XRP, with the value they already hold, but use that on Flare with new applications like Gala, and all the other applications that are coming to Flare. So we think of Flare really as a kind of almost like a medium that sits just sort of aside or above these other chains, but not a single side chain, almost like a universal side chain. But very, very different because the consensus protocol makes it a layer one, not a layer two. So I hope that's sort of roughly succinct.
It works. It works. I understand. It's very difficult sometimes to take these massive, systemic, monstrous concepts and kind of cram them down into a 2-minute answer because there's just so much going on. I have that problem all the time when I talk about Gala. Absolutely constant.
Also, you never know who's listening, so you never know quite the audience you're talking
Right.
to. So it might be someone who really wants to know a bit more detail.
Very, very, very in depth. Right.
Just wants the high level concept. So super high level. Flare is a blockchain that allows all the other communities to come to it.
I love it.
That's a super high level. So that's that.
I absolutely love it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull in a few questions that are coming from our Discord. Which, if you guys are listening right now and you haven't joined yet, you can join our Discord at galagames.chat. It's a fantastic group of people, very, very, very welcoming, and we'll be taking questions from the general channel. So join in and you can start asking questions, and we'll do what we can to answer them. Now, this comes from Jesse Hines, who I know you are aware of at the very least. He's very curious about where you got your glasses. This is the number one first question that we have to answer because the legal exemplar wants to know.
Okay, it's a British company and they're wonderful and they're called Qubits.
Qubits. It is a British company. Somebody go find them on Twitter and inform them that they just got a plug here because that's
they're kind of like a neo glasses company. You get them on the internet, but I tell you what, the quality of them is substantially better than all the other stuff.
Really wonderful. I just ordered new glasses as well, so you will see some new frames on this face here pretty soon here. Okay, so it looks like I think that some of the best Winter, who's a very active member of our Discord, wants to know what language you can use to write contracts for Flare. Do you guys use
Solidity?
You use Solidity, okay.
Yeah. So it's pure EVM.
Wonderful. Kirito says good afternoon from the UAE, so that's fantastic. I miss traveling, man. We need to start traveling again. I need to go to the UAE. It's been too long.
That's very good fun.
It's very, very good fun.
It's about to be the Expo in the UAE.
Yes.
Expo 2020 was delayed, and it's now, I think it's launching in September. It'll be very exciting.
Hopefully in September some traveling will be happening again. Maybe we can go check that out.
Well, I'm certainly planning on going to the Expo.
Okay, let's see here. Can you explain, and this is from Dane, can you explain how assets are bridged into Flare?
Okay, so it's a collateralized bridge, and there's three components. So the first is a system called the state connector, And the state connector is essentially a system that's run by all of the nodes on the Flare network. And each of the nodes submits a state proof of the underlying chain. So to give an example, XRP. And that they periodically submit state proofs as to the state of the XRP ledger or some specific accounts that we need from the XRP ledger. And that allows for Flare to come to consensus over what is happening on the other chain. So that's the first component. And that's really the information bridge. And then we have the Flare time series oracle, and that allows for the network to basically come to consensus over what the price of any asset is. So for instance, XRP against USD and a Flare or the Spark token FLR against USD. And so that then gives us the price of Flare versus XRP. So we've got the information bridge, which means we can see what's happening in the accounts on XRP. And then we have the oracle, so we can get the price from our side. And then we have the F asset system, which is where people put in their FLR as collateral, 2.5 times the value of any amount that can be issued. So 2.5 times the value. So let's say you wish to issue $100 worth of XRP on Flare as FXRP. An agent puts in $250 of FLR. And then they put in that $250 of FLR. And then on, let's say, the XRP ledger, someone would send them some amount of XRP. Let's say it's $100. And that someone who sent that $100 of XRP, they receive $100 of FXRP over on Flare. And so the agent now has their collateral locked. They have $100 of XRP, and the person has $100 of FXRP. And so then they can use that FXRP in any smart contract, with Gala, to maybe buy, an NFT, a piece of armor or whatever, or maybe to use it in a finance application like Flare Finance. And then they can send that FXRP back to the smart contract, and not necessarily the same agent or agents that received the XRP in the first place, but some set of agents will send back XRP on the XRP ledger. And if they don't, then that person gets paid out in FLR with essentially a bonus for the hassle of having to go back and buy XRP. So it's a fairly sort of, we think, robust system. Because unlike some of the other systems, it doesn't have a custodian, and it also it's not so you're not locking XRP in some kind of account which is controlled by not very many people, which is the approaches that we've seen before, and I really don't like them. And it's also not purely synthetic. Because one of the problems with pure synthetic assets is that the agent who's put the collateral in, they may actually not have the underlying, right. At which point that increases their risk and therefore increases risk of default in the system. So that's how Flare bridges the assets on. I hope that was straightforward. There's a blog actually on our blog, which is so flare.xyz, I think /blog, or there's a link, and there's a blog that describes how that works.
Brilliant. That is actually quite straightforward. I'm super happy to, you and I have obviously talked about this before, but it's always good to hear these things again. Now, that blog thing you mentioned actually feeds right into Rob Campy88's question of what is the best information source for the Flare network staking superdelegates and F assets? Would you say that is the blog, or are there a number of sources that you would recommend?
The blog's pretty good. We've been building so much that we haven't really released perfect information yet.
I know that feeling. I know that feeling very, very well.
But also, we've only wanted to talk in general terms because as we build, we hone in on the accuracy of exactly how the system is going to work. So there's lots and lots of optimizations that have happened between the white paper and between where we are now with the smart contracts. So it's like subtle things. So in order to write something that is usable by other people, it needs to have it needs to be very clear, and it needs to have all of the information, because otherwise, the second the information is off target, then it becomes really confusing for people, which is why we haven't put this out yet. So until the contracts are absolutely final, we won't put that out, and then that will end up being, well, it won't be there yet because it's still being in the process of being finished off. That'll be at docs.flare.network. And so that will be the best, the original source of information. But there are also loads and loads of great YouTube channels. One by Crypto Eri does good.
Just gonna mention her
stuff. Yeah, really great stuff. Mickey B and DeFi Standard does really great videos on Flare. Wealth Code did a really good video. So and there's a few. There's Flare Community. I mean, absolute legend. Really puts a huge amount of time in, and a massive respect for him. And Tim Rowley in Australia does some great videos on how to set up Flare nodes. So there's a really buzzing community, and I think Patty B, actually part of DeFi Standard, wrote a really great blog the other day on the state connector, and so it is a bit disparate, but I think there's a blessing in that, because I think all of these people are writing for very different levels, and then we'll obviously end up having the actual technical documents that that give the actual software specifications. So I hope that gives you some context and some knowledge, and just to give them a shout out, Toho Labs are building the Bifrost wallet.
Yes.
The Bifrost wallet's going to be a wallet that is enabled for all of the chains that Flare integrates. So Litecoin, Stellar, XRP, XLM, Dogecoin, and so that will then become, that's a really wonderful for the Flare community, because they're also building the delegation for the FTSO into that wallet, and they're also building a DApp Explorer, so you'll be able to access Flare Finance and probably Gala NFTs at some point directly from that wallet. So that'll be to my mind immensely powerful tool. And of course they built the ledger application for Flare as well, which is, I believe, under review by the technical team at Ledger now. So that's great.
Wonderful. Gotta have the technical reviews. Okay, so let's see here. Let's talk a little bit about the Citadel. There's a few people who are asking questions about exactly what does having a Citadel in Mirandis mean? What does that mean for the Flare community? What benefits do people using the Flare network receive in said Citadel? Now, before I go into that, again, my name is Jason Brink. This is Hugo Philion from Flare, and we are here just talking about Flare, Gala, our cooperation, and everything that covers the two of us. And if you would like to join our Discord at galagames.chat, and we would be more than happy to welcome you. We have a very active Discord of super awesome people. I think that our two Discords are probably some of the two best Discords on the entire internet. So, in regards to Mirandis, in regards to the Citadel, okay, what does it mean to have a Citadel? What does it mean to be a Citadel holder, and what does that mean for the Flare community? Now, typically this sort of question would go to Michael McCarthy, the game director for Mirandis. However, it's 6:30 in the morning, and I think he's probably getting the kids ready to go to school, or actually it's probably summertime. Hopefully he's sleeping. I hope the poor guy is sleeping. Yeah, anyway. So, there's a Citadel in Mirandis. There's only 5 Citadels, okay? And Flare has the Citadel of the Moon, which I feel is appropriate. Everybody likes moons. There's always the when moon question, which is usually followed by when Lambo, but we'll just leave that aside for now. Now, the Citadel of the Moon, the way that this is going to work is this. I see this as a community nexus for the entire Flare community. Okay. And there will be certain things that can potentially happen with the Flare community within the walls of the Citadel. Flare can, for example, allow users who hold a certain amount of the Spark token the ability to potentially have different rental rates for plots in the Citadel. We can set it up so that if you are holding NFTs that are on the Flare network, okay, when you enter the Citadel, those NFTs receive a buff. So, for example, imagine you could have a sword that exists on the Gala chain, a sword that exists on Ethereum as an ERC 1155, and a sword that exists on Flare. Okay, and when you walk into the Flare Citadel, okay, or the area controlled by the Flare Citadel, then that sword, okay, that you have that is on Flare suddenly starts to glow a little bit and gets a little tiny bit of a buff. And so for the Flare community, every cool NFT that you would have on Flare, okay, would have an additional little boost to it. For us, we're very interested in what the community would like, because we're building all of this out together, and these are some of the things that we've thought of. We'd also love to have very large events. I can see having, like even almost like a Flare convention in the grand hall of your Citadel, where people can come in and join and wander through the world and things like that. There's a lot that can be done, but that's a few of them.
I think it'll also be quite fun to have some of the applications on Flare also represented as shops.
Oh, certainly. That's
I think it'd be really fun if you could go into like the Flare finance shop and actually it could be like going into a bank and depositing your NFT or something. We'll have to figure out how that all works. But that's so much fun.
The way that could work in a way that I think would be really, really smooth is if Flare Finance had a Philion vault that they're partners with us. They were the first ones to purchase a Citadel. And they have the Citadel of the Sun, and Citadel of the Moon. There can be some cooperation here, but that Philion vault, okay, could potentially be enabled via the entire Flare Finance side of things to make that possible. And I know that Flare Finance has some really creative, awesome DeFi stuff going on. So I think that with all of these things connecting together, we could come up with some really, really cool, stuff. Okay, let's see.
Should we talk at some point? Should we talk about the Gala nodes being used in the Oracle?
Yes, we should. We should definitely. I was kind of waiting for that to come up as a question here, and I think I saw it a second ago. But wow, they've asked so many questions. Let's see. Keeps going. There's so many questions. Okay, well, somebody asked a question about it. So we'll just talk about it. I don't know who asked the question, so I can't point to that. But let's talk a little bit about how the Flare Time Series Oracle works, and I'll talk about how that can connect with the Gala node ecosystem a little bit.
So the Flare Time Series Oracle has what we call a data provider. Essentially, they're just an address on Flare, and that address you can essentially delegate your votes, your FLR votes, and also F asset votes to a data provider's address, and that gives the address essentially an ability to insert prices into the Flare Time Series Oracle. And if those prices are within 50% bounds of the, it's a slightly complex algorithm, but it's the weighted median.
Math is involved.
Yeah, so if it's within the 50% bounds of the weighted median, then that address gets rewarded an amount depending on how many votes they have, and how many votes they are left with once essentially the 50% has been cut. And so that is the Flare sort of definition of the Flare time series oracle, and it's there to provide data to the network. And that data, as I said about 10 minutes ago, is generally price data. But it could be anything. It could be weather data. It could be winners of rounds in Gala in Gala games for some particular thing. I don't,
Right.
So it can be any form of data. It's pretty arbitrary. Time series data tends to be kind of what we've conceptualized it being built for, but it's arbitrary. So that system pays out, I think, about 8% per year, at least from the beginning, 2%. So there's a total global inflation rate of 10% per year, 2% going to the state connector proof providers, and then 8% going to the Flare time series oracle. Now, it's actually quite a lot more than that because of the way that the tokens are being distributed over 28 months. So actually, it's 8% in the first year, but on the full amount of notional tokens being 100 billion. So it's 8 billion tokens. But at day one, there's only 15 billion tokens being distributed. And so what that means is that if you take part early and you win, then actually you are winning a much larger amount pro rata than you will be once the tokens are fully distributed. Which means that if you're an early user, you become a bigger and more important part of the ecosystem.
Right.
And so that's kind of why we've structured it that way. And that's, I think, I can probably let you comment on it, but I believe that you guys are building the ability for your Gala nodes to basically come to consensus on Gala over a price, or at least aggregate some price, and then insert that as a single unified data provider on Flare. That's my understanding.
We're looking at this from the perspective, we can do it as a single unified data provider, or we can do it as a group of individual nodes. However, for us, the thing that we see as most important, and we know that this is important to you guys, is the reliability of that specific node. So we're actually retooling some of our node network at this point in time, or we're talking about exactly how to reward this, to reward uptime, stability, and the longevity of the node right now. And so that's actually something that's probably going to be coming to a proposal node proposal vote here pretty soon.
That's cool.
Yeah, because we have
that'll automatically get rewarded by Flare in a way, because obviously if they have uptime and and all that kind of stuff, then they're going to be contributing to the Flare time series oracle more, and so therefore winning more rewards, and therefore that kind of provides an automatic reward for being a good node.
Yep, that's what we want to do. We have about 10,000 nodes up and running at any given time, so we want to make things as stable and robust as we possibly can. Okay, one quick thing that I would like to mention here, and Lolo Calbo, no, Flare Finance did not buy the Citadel of the Sun. Polyant Games bought the Citadel of the Sun, but Flare Finance could buy one of their vaults and use that to impact some of what they're discussing. I find it very interesting because it seems to me that there is a good amount of confusion between Flare and Flare Finance. I see there's a lot of blending and mixing together in sort of the general consciousness around that. Do you have any thoughts on that, just in general?
So Flare is the network. So Flare Networks is the network. Flare Finance is an application that is not run by us, not started by us. We know the people that are building it. and they're building a bunch of DeFi applications, really really strong offering. So I do know that there's confusion. I kind of think that it'll dissipate over time.
Mm.
And I think it's yeah, it's a shame that people do get confused. It shouldn't be that confusing, but I think if people are spending only a short amount of time,
Right.
looking at things, it can be confusing. Having said that, this is a decentralized space, and people are free to choose whatever name they like.
Right.
It could be, I'm just glad it's, not some food variant.
That is handy. That is handy.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and I think we're bored of pizza at this point, or whatever it is. Maybe I don't know what next food or farming metaphor people will come up with, but I'm
Taco
quite.
Swap. We need Taco Swap. Does Taco Swap exist yet?
I'm sure Taco Swap exists. That's
It
definitely got to be there somewhere.
probably has to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's see here. What other questions do we have? Okay, there's the whole Flare v Flare finance discussion that was like 30 messages. If you guys are not here yet, join our Discord at galagames.chat and we can discuss this. Okay, going back above all of that. What do you mean, what's up with the AMA, Mr. Flush? We're here. We're talking about it right now. Okay. John 3.0 would like to know, and I'm assuming he's asking you, when will the security audits begin, or have they already started? Or
Oh,
is that
we're doing three, and
okay?
back to back. We've done one, and I think about 1.5 so far, and it's ongoing, and the people will be asking when are the security audits starting, and the reason they're asking that is because they want to know when the network's going to launch, and
Yes.
we will have some news on that soon. But I'm not going to say anything
Soon.
more. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Look, people are like, "Oh, you haven't launched yet. You said you would," and it's like,
People don't understand how difficult development is, man. They really have no concept.
well, more than that, just that this year, find it like you can't get auditors.
Right.
We're lucky that we booked audits back in December. But we've had to really bend our development with around the audit because we can't move them for love nor money. We could
Yes.
there is no amount of money that if we wanted to book another audit now, we would be talking about
Right.
December or January next year. And so we've had to structure all of our development literally around when we could book the audits. And so it's that's actually been quite a challenge because
Mm.
usually you like to do the development, then book the audit, then do the any regressions and all that kind of stuff. But we've had to struggle around that. So we've got audits ongoing, and there'll be some news about launch soon. But again, yeah, development is not a perfect. You can't, when you start a project, say, we're going to build this smart contract in this period of time, and it's going to finish on Friday the 19th of whatever.
Mm.
It's just that's not a it's not the
That's
way
not
it
how. That's
works.
not how reality
No,
functions. No, it just
no,
doesn't.
no.
And this is something that we see all the time too, because you have this best intention push for a certain time. Like, we want to get this done by this point in time. And people, most of them who are not technical, will look at that and say, oh, well, for sure, 1 bazillion%, this thing is going to be done by exactly this time. And the reality is that just it doesn't work that way. And there are things that pop up that if you don't deal with them correctly, make it much worse. Like, I think that I speak for everybody, and I consider myself part of the Flare community as well. I think I speak for everybody in saying that the last thing that you want is for development to be rushed in a bad way and have something pushed that creates like a fundamental long-term problem. That's way worse than having a delay.
Oh, terrible, terrible. And also a lot of the things we've been doing is sort of optimizing subroutines, right? So
Right.
it's you write a white paper and you come up with a bunch of ideas and algorithms, and it all it's a sort of scientific set of ideas about what you want to do. And then as you actually go from I suppose the high level pseudocode algorithm into actually building on a specific technology, let's call it Solidity or in Golang, and you build in these things, and then you find, oh well, actually I can optimize it in this way now, or actually
Right.
this makes wonderful sense, and it's way better than what I originally wanted to do. So and as a team, we've been going through a constant iterative optimization cycle. So we had the Flare time series Oracle built, at this point, I think 3 months ago, as a beta that we've been testing internally, and we've been absolutely slamming our internal network with transactions, just trashing it. We're spending a fortune on nodes at the moment, just absolutely trying to make it break. And so we had that 3 months ago, but the optimizations that has come from that testing process, they're really really good. And so yeah, I'm not I'm certainly not going to rush this because some people want to get their token sooner, and
Right.
it's just silly. Whether if it's 1 month, 2 months, who cares? It's this is Bitcoin's been around since 2009.
Right. We're
we're
building
building
something.
something for the long term.
Exactly. Patty XRP, who I believe you mentioned a little bit ago, would like it if you could expand on the possible benefits of determining data feeds to FTSO via node ecosystems like Gala and Pack.
Oh, okay. So I really like the idea of a data provider which is itself decentralized.
Right.
So if you think about using a node ecosystem like Gala or Pack, then you're talking about one data provider. So it's one of many data providers, but behind that data provider is another 10,000 nodes.
Right.
Which is really like that makes it more and more. It just adds a level of decentralization. It
Right.
also adds a level of community,
Right.
because it means that the Gala community can be earning from Flare, and that's for me a beautiful symbiosis
Right.
of what we're trying to achieve in decentralized networks, which is, well, this whole decentralized kind of movement is how do we work together, even though we don't know each other, we don't necessarily trust each other, and that's literally what the whole networks are built for. And so to be able to integrate decentralized node networks into a particular application, which is the Flare time series Oracle, for me is really very exciting.
I like that. I really like that. Okay. Do you have time for a couple more questions?
Oh yeah, yeah, no problem.
Okay. Patty, they're voting Patty XRP to be Hand of the King. So I hope that should work out, right? And she would like to be assistant to the manager of the Citadel of the Moon. So I'll let you guys sort that out at some point in time in the
We
future.
have to appoint the manager then. I don't know, or that should be voted on actually.
That should probably be voted on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
vote for Crypto Area.
oh, she would make a glorious queen.
Yeah, yeah.
She would make just a very glorious queen. Somebody, I think that we should probably get her involved and have the community go tag her on Twitter and let her know that she has received a vote from Hugo to be
A nomination.
nomination to be Queen of the Citadel of the Moon.
Yeah, yeah.
I really like that. Okay, let's see. So Flare runs the Citadel of the Moon. Are they going to do in-game Mirandis events for Flare rewards? I think that that's a cool idea, and I certainly think that there's no reason that we wouldn't all be able to work on that. One of the things that we've talked about with Citadels is how cool it would be to have large in-game events. I mean, they can be cooperative questing events. They can be, even battles. One of the things that I think would be really cool is you guys could have the Flare army, okay, and people could have other large deeds that would be somehow attached to the Citadel and become this gigantic Flare force in the world of Mirandis. Everybody
Cool.
walks around with a giant torch on their shield or something like that. I think that would be really, really cool.
Mm. No, I like
Okay,
that.
so bless no stress. Can you provide more information around the carbon emissions of NFTs on Flare versus Ethereum?
So Ethereum uses proof of work.
Right.
So like Bitcoin.
We call that proof of waste.
Yes, yes. That's essentially using a very large amount of energy um, in order to find a random number um, across the world. And essentially, I started out with Ethereum mining years and years ago, and I was thinking I could probably actually heat my house with the GPUs I had very easily. Just there was a bit of a problem in summer, but
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, proof of work is wasteful of energy. Some people make a point, and it's a marginally valid point, that proof of work is giving value to energy that would otherwise essentially just be dissipated, because there are times when too much energy is produced. But I don't know how valid that point is, and it's certainly not 100% of the energy being used
Right, for sure.
Ethereum. But that's neither here nor there in a way, because Ethereum say they're moving to proof of stake. So that and some more modern algorithms. So Flare is like all of the modern algorithms. It just uses nodes at which don't have anywhere like that kind of energy consumption. I think for me, the very important thing is that Flare also doesn't tie up capital, and capital and energy are in fact related in a modern economy.
Right.
So, in fact, yeah, they're somewhat, and they're not substitutable, but essentially capital wouldn't exist without the energy input to derive that capital.
Sure.
So therefore,
Sure.
if you're tying up capital, it's a bit like tying up energy. And so it's not quite a perfect metaphor or analogy, but it's not it's basically you're tying up limited resources. Capital is limited, money isn't. Capital is limited,
Right.
and to me that's almost as wasteful as using energy.
Hmm.
Because capital can be used for other things which are valuable to society and valuable to us as humans. That's one of our core reasons why we don't tie up capital as an algorithm, whereas proof of stake does. So I think that people who are moving to proof of stake are moving from one wasteful system to another wasteful system, and Flare doesn't waste either energy nor capital.
Awesome. That is a fantastic explanation there. Well, I think that this is just about the time that we have available to us this morning. So, do you have any parting words that you would like to share, Hugo?
I think I'm so chuffed by how the Gala community and the Flare community have kind of come together. I mean, I've watched your node count grow massively, you guys are doing just such an amazing job. And I'm really excited for the future of Gala, to be honest with you. I would love to know more details about what you're releasing coming up,
Mm.
but you text me or something.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, but
Dude, there's so much
yeah,
coming. there's so much coming. There's so many games, so many partnerships, so many things to be involved in. And hey, if you guys don't have a node yet, you can get them now. Um, yeah, it's cool stuff. Very cool stuff is coming.
It's so exciting to see the future of gaming. It really is, and I'm just really thankful that you guys have chosen that it may also be on Flare. So that's awesome.
We definitely want that. We want to connect with you guys. Your community is absolutely amazing as well. You've done a fantastic job of connecting with them, and this is something that we think is very important to us. Community is the key to everything. If you don't have community, then what do you got? So anyway, with that, I will close. Thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we will definitely be here. Join our Discord at galagames.chat and learn more about Flare at flare.network. And is that the one you want to use, or do you use flare.xyz?
There's two. There's flare.xyz is our main site.
Flare.xyz. Go to that one. Ignore the network one. And and we will talk to all of you guys in Discord and Telegram and all the places that we talk to you. So
happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thank you so much. And for you Americans out there, enjoy your 4th of July.
Yes. Happy Independence Day.